Hello, everybody. Welcome.
And we're back with my biceps.
Welcome to
Yes.
Everything in Biceps podcast, episode 28. Today we were going to talk about COVID and overpopulation and how overpopulation could have contributed to the COVID pandemic. Luke, you are very passionate about this topic, and you have a very passionate solution.
I feel like I'm more passionate about overpopulation in general, right? More so than just like it's how it relates to COVID. But like one of the leading theories, that we've been hearing is that, there's a natural like cross contamination, and that COVID-19 had trans species to humans through contact. And even if we don't even just look at COVID itself, if we look at previous epidemics and pandemics, a lot of their origins come from nature, and the fact that we're growing at a rapid speed of our population, we need more land, and that just leads us to encroaching on wildlife that we've never really encountered before. And with that comes all these hosts of diseases.
So the big thing with COVID was the bats, correct?
Yeah, that was the big thing. The bats in the Wuhan market. That's what they say. At least that's what's generally accepted. I mean, you got some. Listen, I'm a big conspiracy theorist out here. Listen, I love the conspiracy theories, but this one I'm not too certain about. I don't know if I could. I don't know if I could put my money on this one. But the leading conspiracy theory is that it was built, or it was genetically modified in a laboratory that's like approximately like 300 yards away from the market that they say it came from. And then they also try and say that there's no bats that were sold at that market. So then it leads to the how did it get there? And then they somehow can come to the conclusion that a scientist that had it leaked it in the market or into the public, and then it just spread from there. So that's the leading conspiracy theory. But I don't think it's generally accepted by the scientific community.
Yeah, so we will get into that because there is a little conspiracy here, I'm sure.
I love me a good conspiracy theory.
I think that I was kind of surprised to see that the lab theory wasn't like really accepted. Not like lab, like they were genetically modifying it, like, supervillains.
Yeah.
I think that it could have been like, all right, like they brought in the virus, like as they do with anything else. Someone made a mistake and it got out. So, I mean, I think that is a reasonable thought, because I remember I said in the group chat the other day that there's like two different scientific schools of thought. There's the one that wants to like seek out all the different viruses and diseases in the world that are found in animals and then bring it in, test it, and experiment with it. And then there's the other people that are just leave everything alone, but just be wary of it being in that area so that you could take the precautions to contain it. So I wasn't really surprised, but the majority of the scientific community is the first one. They want to play with it. So, and honestly, like if you really want to learn more about this, I don't really want to discuss like the controversial parts of it, but if you watch Joe Rogan's podcast with Josh Rogan, not his brother, it's Rogin, not Rogan. Yeah, so he had an interesting theory of why the lab theory shouldn't be written off, because a lot of people are just saying no way. Like, I think for anyone to say like no way is it not possible is like kind of naive. But it's also like, if you think that's 100% true, you're also being naive. You should entertain the idea, at least. At the end of the day, it's probably like a fusion of the two. But yeah, it was a good episode. It's a good episode. And, Joe Rogan caught some flack the other day because he said that he doesn't think that people our age should get the vaccine. What is your take on that?
You know what? It's kind of a toss up. Listen, like I understand if there's people that are reluctant to get it because of the lack of like long term studies, but to say that, I mean, it's been proven effective at creating antibodies, and there's been no cases of having a severe case of COVID, and after having your double dose of the vaccine, which I think is important, especially with COVID. I mean, listen, people compare it to like the flu. I mean, we've been hearing that since it's like literally come out. But I think the big thing with this is that it's not so much that, I mean, yes, it can affect young people, healthy individuals in various ways, but there's also longer lasting side effects of COVID. And like some of them are like mental fog. I've heard some people that have had neuro muscular deficits, just neurology deficits in general. And to be honest, bro, like if there's a virus out there that's gonna fuck with my head, bro, or fuck with my nervous system, I'll take anything under the sun, if it's proven effective against it. Because once that goes, like I do not know how I'd be able to function. I mean, that's just me personally, and so I'm for it, but I do understand the point of people waiting to see the longer term effects of it.
So, with the longer term effects of the vaccine, what do you? I mean, there's really no. It would just be a shot in the dark of like what a possible side effect of it would be in the future. But if you had to guess, like what would be something that would be likely?
I mean, a lot of people are concerned with infertility. Um, Personally, I don't think that's going to be a problem because the way vaccines work, if it were like, if you think about it, like, and or maybe some people will have worries about like genetic abnormalities when they do conceive. And like if you think about how vaccines work, it works on a different like cell line in your body, right? So you have like your cells, and then you have obviously your reproductive cells. And if vaccines were to be passed along to your offspring, then every vaccine you've had would be passed along to your offspring. So I don't think that there's really like any genetic abnormalities that are going to come out of it. But those are like the two big ones that I've been hearing a lot about. Is a lot about just like that family planning type thing.
You already know that someone's gonna have a baby with Down syndrome, and they're gonna blame the vaccine.
Oh, 100%. 100%. And I've already seen cases of and articles where women are talking about how after they've received the vaccine, their menstruation periods have gotten like insanely heavy when they never had it before. And I'm sure, I mean, I'm not a woman, so I can't really speak too well on this, but I'm sure that there are a variety of factors that lead to how much you bleed in a X amount in whatever cycle you're currently in. So I don't know if you can really say that that's caused by a vaccine, but people love to entertain all ideas that are on unproven blog posts, especially on Facebook. We love getting the reposts from the moms.
um, so do you think that science is unified in their stance with COVID? Like, do you think that they're all sort of on the same page, or is there different pages?
I think like there's been a lot of flip flopping around about like how, I mean, with something that's like a novel like this, it's hard to figure out like what is the correct measures to take and what isn't. But there's just been way too much flipping and flopping around. And honestly, like at this point, I feel like we have a decent amount of the population vaccinated. And I'm glad to start seeing things being reopened. The CDC just put out, I think last week it was, saying that if you're outside and you're at least still 6 feet apart, you can take your masks off. which I think is a big step, because I was actually talking to one of my professors about this, and it's almost like now you have people that do not care at all and don't want to wear the masks. And then you also have the opposite extreme where there's people that never want to take the masks off at all. And to return to some type of normalcy, you have to be like, there has to be some type of happy medium, right? Like you have to have those people that are like mask shaming people to be able to be the ones to also take off their masks. And you have to have the people that literally don't give a single fuck about anybody else but themselves be responsible enough to, if they're not vaccinated, actually take some type of precaution. And actually, you know, before I was looking something up, I was reading this article that was published, and it talked about how framing, the way that you are framed, the information you receive affects like how like you react to it. So like for example, like what basically what the authors concluded, it was actually really interesting. Hold on, let me see if I can find it real quick. Oh, here. So this was very interesting. Exposure to, as we were talking about the conspiracy theory, exposure to a conspiracy theory about the virus's origin in isolation or in competition. And by what they mean by that is if you're only receiving information that relates to the origin of the conspiracy theory, or if you're getting various theories about the origin, like you're being exposed to the ones we just talked about in our podcast. It resulted in a quote unquote conspiracy effect whereby the individuals became less likely to view actions such as wearing masks, frequently washing hands, and maintaining social distance as necessary in order to mitigate COVID-19's response. And in addition to also the same thing with the framing also played a role in how people perceived like how China should be how do I guess involved in like a reparation, so to speak, type thing. But and they felt like animosity and fear towards them. And I think that we actually are seeing that like throughout our daily lives. I mean, I see it on my news feed and Instagram feed all the time about all these Asian hate crimes that are coming and starting to pop up. And at least, well, I mean, they've been around since the beginning, right? But now they're finally starting to gain some traction in the media. And I think that we see like this conspiracy theory leading to a bunch of things that we're now seeing in our society.
So one of the things is like with the lab theory, and that it started from a lab, is a lot of people say that theory is racist.
Interesting. Why is that?
Because they say like, oh, you're blaming the Chinese scientists for creating like the disease or making the mistake that led to the pandemic. But I just really don't. I don't really care like what race they are. They made the mistake anyway, you know. Like
I mean, yeah, like what you're saying makes sense. Like you're just talking about them as scientists, not talking about them as Chinese people.
Bro, but they're saying that like, oh, if you entertain that idea, like it's gonna ramp up like the Asian hate. And I'm like, I think that Trump saying the China virus or the Kung flu has more of a profound effect on that.
So bad, so bad. And they actually do. They even cited that in the article how Donald Trump coined it the China virus. Like, and that's like the type of information, the one-sided information that they were trying to get at, which is obviously, I mean, even without having a scientific article about it, I'm pretty sure just from our own personal experiences, we could have came to the same conclusion. But yeah. But like in regards to the overpopulation thing, do you think it's a big problem? I mean, I know we got the COVID-19, we were talking about COVID-19, but just in general, what do you think about overpopulation in general? Let's open this can of worms.
So I'm here to discuss hypocrisy here. All right. So it's going to be funny, right? So, scientists and doctors, they want to save lives, right?
Yeah.
But they also recognize that overpopulation is a problem, right?
Yeah.
So
I like where this is going. Right into my line of thought here.
So why are we trying to save people that are dead and gone?
Bingo, baby. That's what I'm saying. Nah, that's so messed up.
It's messed up, but like you have to hear us out here. You have to hear us out.
Wait, my theory kind of branches off this in a little different direction, I feel like.
I think that mine was, I mean, it probably wouldn't have been I really don't think that this is any way that you could say like that, like, I mean, like Trump came under fire for saying like people just need to die, like that, like you obviously don't want to say that, and you don't want it to be someone close to you. And there are people that lost their parents and grandparents to COVID, and that's unfortunate. But death is a part of life. No matter how it comes, it's really just on the chance that, I mean, it is like an insurance of like if you work out, if you're healthy, whatever. That's stuff that gives you a plus to deal with anything, unless you get hit by a car, because there's no as big as Luke is. If he gets hit by a car, he's probably gonna die. So
I don't know, dude. I may send that car to the junkyard. I'm kind of built like steel, bro. They may crumple at the pure, just driving at me. It may just crumple before it even gets close to me.
So basically, what I'm trying to say
Plus,
here,
I have the power of the Force.
Luke Skywalker.
Yes.
Basically, what I'm trying to say here is that if it wasn't COVID, something else would have gotten them, most likely.
Probably eventually. I think where I kind of go off with the overpopulation thing is that, like, and I'm sure I probably said this in an earlier episode, but it's something that I kind of truly believe in. And I actually have I just kind of like was thinking about this earlier today, and I actually came out like with another like kind of interesting, like kind of mental health kind of point of view that also kind of like ties into overpopulation. And in the past like years, and I know I've said this before, but our life expectancy has drastically increased. And like in the US, I think it's like somewhere like around 75. In Canada, it's like it's like in the 80s. And like the lowest age now is like 45, I think, and that's in some I think it's like 45 to 55 are the lowest life expectancies, and those are in some countries in Africa.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but like even if you think about that number, like if you go back like 100, couple hundred years, 200 years, like 45, 55 was deemed old. Now we're like that's like our parents' age. Like it's like we're 20 years old and our parents are 55, 60, and you're like, damn, like they're still young, like they're not old. They're not about to like just croak, right? So like we've made so many advances in medicine that has like branched our life expectancy so much longer that like it obviously, like I was saying, we need more room. We need other areas to inhabit, like it to habit, right? Inhabit. Um and that brings us back to the whole thing, like how COVID and nature and everything like that. But I think one of the other things that I find about this is that I was thinking about to myself, and even I do the same thing. It's like because we have this like idea, this concept of life expectancy being so long, we're like, oh yeah, like like I still have years to do that, and like people are like constantly stuck in doing things that they don't want to do because they're like, oh, it's just temporary. Like I'll get out of this in the next year or so, and then I'll move on and do my dream. Like I'll go out and chase my dreams or whatever. And like I feel like that has a big toll on our mental health. And like it's obviously a very abstract point because it's not directly tied to overpopulation, but just the idea of living long in general. It's like, damn, it's like you have like 50 years left of your life, but like little do you know, like you could die at 40, you could die at 35. And like it's just like this like mainstream concept that we're gonna live so long.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know, I feel like it affects a lot of people and makes like people feel like more depressed. I think it leads to more depression in the current like times now.
I can see
I
that.
don't know.
I
It's
think
an
that
interesting theory, but
I think that when the life expectancy was around like 45, 55, like many years ago, there's more of an emphasis on like just family making,
that's also true.
because like you're gonna be gone. So like it's get the babies and have them quick, have some time to spend with them, teach them what you got to teach them, and then send them on their way to create more babies. So that's how that was back in the day. But like now you have this, right? So whereas like at the age we are now, our grandparents were having our parents. you know?
Yep.
And granted, the life expectancy when our grandparents were younger probably wasn't so far off what it is now, but
Hmm.
still, it's just kind of how life was back then. Um, and then our parents had us a little later, maybe like 5 years later than what our grandparents had them at, and then now like we're even later. Like
Yeah.
now you see like marriages happening early
30s.
early 30s and then
Yep.
kids like mid 30s, and um it's interesting because if you it's like they know that they'll get a lot of time out of their children because like they can afford to have it earlier. You can afford to work in your 20s, you can afford to make your business or whatever in your 20s, and then worry about family making later. So
Yep.
I wonder how that affects the population and if that will, because um, especially with our generation, I feel like there's such a lack of um, women wanting to have kids.
Yeah,
And
I sense that a lot too. Yeah.
I feel like they like women want to focus on their careers more now. They're more career focused, and like that's okay. But it also, I'm a big believer that like if like when you have like a woman has a career and like the man is also working a career, that kid's gonna be not gonna receive the same like love and attention as you know as other as we did.
Yeah.
Because I mean, we both had stay-at-home moms. It's not saying that women should stay at home because your mom works now, my mom works now. They just want to. You need to spend some time with your child in the beginning. But
No, 100%.
um,
Like you don't want your kid to be in like a daycare with some babysitter
yeah,
all the time. Like that's just not it's just not how like you're meant to have social interactions. Like it's your
mhm,
kid. Like you teach it the right thing. You be the person that leads them in growing up, and don't dish it off onto somebody else because you're too busy with your life.
yeah. Um, and listen, like the man has to play a part in that as well. It's not like just man needs to work.
Oh,
Uh,
100%.
but like, I mean, I mean, I'm just saying to all the women out there, if you believe in the gender wage gap theory, the man's gonna be making more money than you anyway. um, so basically, what that point was just to show how much society has changed and how like life expectancy going up probably changed that as well.
Yeah, I
Um,
think I think what you were saying earlier though about like how like everyone wants to push back. I think that's interesting because like I wonder if like there's gonna be like another like boom, like if just like a bunch of kids just popping out left and right, and like it's just because everybody was like waiting till like 32 to have kids.
yeah, I mean that could definitely be. I mean, I'm sure. Like, listen, this is just the United States. I think the United States and certain other developed countries are having these children later.
That's
Um,
also true. That's a
we
good point.
I did an assignment about China and how the women of our generation have no
Hmm.
interest of having kids. 75% of Chinese women that are um, our age have no interest in having kids. That could
Interesting.
change. That could absolutely change. But they they will have a partner. They don't mind having a partner. In fact, they'd say that it's better for them. Um, but they want to focus on their career. They don't want to jeopardize their career for the care of a child because you have to think when a woman does have a child, they spend months away from the workforce, and during that time, the workforce passes them up. They lose their skills, um, so it puts them in a spot where they can't go back. But of the Chinese women that had kids that are around our age or in our generation,
Hmm.
like over 90% are stay at home.
Wow.
Yeah. It's like if you do have a kid, they fully commit to it. If they do have a job, they fully commit to it. And I think that that's okay. That's okay. I think it's okay. You can have a balance, but they also kind of recognize like I think they're rational in the sense that they're like, all right, listen, like I'm not going to bring a kid in this world if I really care about my job so much.
Can't really have both.
Yeah.
Can't have the perfect union between both. One is always going to sacrifice,
Yeah.
when you have a situation like that.
So going back to overpopulation, how do we solve this?
Well, there is a very controversial theory out there. I'm not going to say who came up with it, but may have been me. But no. I'm just kidding. But what if, just think about this, bro, like any single conflict, we have so many nukes piled up that like if we just drop them on each other, we're sending the world into a nuclear winter and then we're done. Like we better hope inhabiting, and I can't even think of the word. We better hope we have some Elon Musk inhabitation on Mars by then, because we're all going to need to take on some fucking space rockets and leave the fucking place. We got way too many nukes styled up. And you know, a good old trusty source here. We got some Wikipedia info coming in real hot too. If we used about 50 Hiroshima-sized nuclear weapons, then we would have a catastrophic nuclear winter. And now I'm not saying that, I'm not saying I'm an advocate for dropping 50 nuclear bombs. I'm not saying that at all. But I am saying that if we dwindle the population a little bit, we wouldn't have as much pollution. We wouldn't have as much idiocracy. I don't know. There's a lot of stems out here that we get to.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I think the only thing that could really drive our population down at the rate that it's going, because it's only going to go up, is a third world war, which would probably wipe out like around 50% of the world's population, if not more, just based on the technology and weaponry that we have now. Or Elon Musk is going to have to colonize Mars, and we're going to have to move people over it. Okay. But those are the only two options, I think. And obviously, you don't want to start a war. You don't want to bring that kind of pain and suffering to the world. But
yeah, that's true.
At the end of the day, it's get killed by people, get killed by Earth failing itself.
Yeah, like I honestly, I really don't think people understand how like at a crossroads we are here, because we are literally taking all of our resources. Like it is insane. And in the process, we're destroying like the natural like environment. Like the oceans are literally just like dying because of overfishing. You know, we're chopping down trees. Our ozone layer is finally healing itself, but we're lacking the components, the nature that purifies our air. Like it's just like small things like this that like and it seems small, but in the grand scheme of things, it's huge deals that are just like kind of being overshadowed. And it really is stemmed from a drive of an increased demand for resources. That's what stems most of it.
And the increased demand of resources is simply because there's more people.
Exactly.
And now this is where it gets to like a slippery slope a little bit. So one of the things that made COVID a real issue was in cities where people are on top of each other, living on top of each other. Even in Italy, you saw just like the way that Italians live in their homes, grandparents on the bottom, actual parents, then kids up top. You see how easy it is for something like that to just wipe out a sizable amount of people very quickly. So that obviously means that you need more space. But when you need more space, you are encroaching on where animals live. And this is exactly what you said in the group chat, is then when you do that, then they pass their diseases on to those people.
Yeah.
There's no real answer here other than just the population needs to dwindle a little bit.
We need to slow down. We honestly need to slow down a little bit.
Yeah.
Because like, and in addition, like not even just being exposed to the viruses, you have to remember like nature, as corny as this sounds, there really is truly a balance in nature. And like when you like enter into an ecosystem and you disrupt it like humans do, you throw that balance out of whack. So like that virus that may exist in nature is probably being controlled by some other type of factor that's interplaying with it, right? Like there's always some type of like there's, like I said, there's always some type of that like interaction, that happy medium that exists in nature, and we kind of just throw it all out of whack, and that's when things become a big issue.
Agreed. I think that if you put the COVID pandemic back when there was not as many people in the world at this point, I don't think that it wouldn't have been as effective, deadly. I don't know what the word would be, but I don't think it would have spread as much as it would have. I mean, I know like you have like the past like pandemics and stuff. The bubonic plague fucking wiped out like half the.
That's what I was gonna say. I was gonna say the at the rate this thing spreads at, it almost reminds me of the plague.
Yeah, but the plague was like also so much deadlier because of the lack of medicine at the time. So
and lack of just overall hygiene.
Yes, they would literally shit outside their doors. Fucking weirdos. All right, I think that's a good place to stop. Shitting outside someone's door. If you want to do that, it's a great prank. I know someone who
put it in a bag and just put a nice little flame to it. Yep.
Exactly.
Like Stifler.
Exactly. All right, Luke. Thank you.
It's been a pleasure.
We are advocates of population control. No.
Listen. When we say control the population, we are in no way, shape, or form promoting eugenics either. It's simply just to control the rate. That's it. Not the composition. Just the rate.
Or are we?
No. Just the rate.
All right. Thank you, Luke. Thank you, everybody, for watching. Let us know your thoughts about whether or not you think that overpopulation is a problem and contributed to COVID, and what your solution would be to overpopulation. That is all from us, and we will see you next week. See ya.
Adios, amigo.